And now it is my great pleasure, and as well as privilege, to welcome to the stage Greg Malpass, CEO and founder of Traction On Demand. Thank you all for being here.
Hey, Peter. Thank you very much, Peter. Holy smokes. Well, thank you very much for joining us today. I'm here to talk to you about a bit of a different topic, one that I'm really excited to share. And it's this whole journey that Traction's gone through, and I've gone through over the course of the last little while, which is a better understanding of time. This is a different TractionForce for me. What I'd like all of you to think about is you and I hanging out in a dark room one-on-one. Because I'm going to share a journey through a series of traction forces, and actually a really meaningful journey that Traction's gone through over the course of the last year, and actually it's woven much longer, in trying to understand and determine what our purpose was. The reason this is most different for me is it's actually been an incredible year surrendering a little bit of what I thought leadership was, which is choosing the path for the organization that I thought to be most best fit for the people, which is in a lot of ways what we think of as leadership. And since we last spoke about a year ago, a lot's happened. In the world of Traction, we worked over 750,000 hours. Isn't that incredible? We served about 350 different customers across 580 different projects. We deployed about $1.5 million in grants and capital into nonprofits. And we actually launched 4 more companies, 4 unique software companies off the back of a services business. So we've been busy. What's interesting, though, is a lot of the reasons why. Also on the stage last year, we talked about this notion of empowered people and enabled organizations. And I really appreciate Peter's kind of touching on strategy, touching on purpose, because what's happened over the course of these traction forces is the conversations start somewhere. We start with this notion. We started with this notion of, hey, if organizations could better empower their people, perhaps they could be more adaptive. Perhaps they could be more successful. Perhaps they could continue to play to win, as opposed to playing not to lose. At the end of that conversation, the whole dialogue shifted, and it wove not just into empowering your people, but we started talking about generational shift. We started talking about the fact that a new permission has been brought into businesses, where we get to actually answer questions that are much more meaningful. There's a lot more why, as opposed to just how. And within that dialogue, we also discussed the anonymity that's being built on external social. Even as a leader, I got to say that one of the greatest areas of anxiety for me is worrying about what somebody whom I'll never know who they are will say about me, even perhaps after today. Perhaps there's a missing channel. And over that course of last year, we saw great companies do great things and make bold moves. And they're here today. Some of them are here today to talk about that. We saw Lyft. Lyft reach out and say, hey, you know what? We aren't representative of our customers, but we want to be. And we're going to stamp that as a mission within our business. We're going to actually put it right up front and center. We saw Patagonia ask people to stop buying more of their products because they'd like you to repair it, and you get more use, more benefit from those products. We saw a company like Salesforce, pioneers with the 1-1-1 model. 1% of their profits, 1% of their time, 1% of their software, all for the purpose of helping nonprofits evolve and change. And within that, we saw them actually start directing that towards purpose-driven, meaningful actions, homelessness, and significant commitment of time and resource to help homelessness in some of the areas where they thrive. And speaking of homelessness, we watched TELUS, a telecommunications company, proclaim that they want to do something around the 30,000 Canadians that can't find a place to sleep every night. And that's through their Health for Good program, where they're bringing mobile health, bringing health to people that need it. A telecommunications company that's bringing healthcare. We also saw uniting of great brands, new brands. We're going to have a great conversation with Alex later on today. The Honnold Foundation also has a great affiliation with Rivian. Honnold Foundation actually stands for bringing energy to those who most need it. So in the end, the only thing that happened between then and now is time. And I want to just dig a little bit into my obsession on time and make this a little bit more personal. And I thought I'd put a formula on the screen to make you think that I'm smarter than I am. The truth is, many people for many years, hundreds of years in fact, have obsessed over this concept of time. And if we look at our Physics 11 playbook, work equals force times distance, you don't have to worry about a lot of the other fancy characters. But at the end of the day, what you should know is time is the most common efficient when it comes to work. So my obsession around time has been lifelong. And I'll share kind of some fun anecdotes. When I was a kid, everyone thought I was lazy. And the truth was, I was obsessed with finding ways of getting things done more effectively in the long term, which meant I always looked for machinery to do the job for me. My brother was here, he would still argue I'm lazy. As a young adult in university, I found time. I found that I didn't need to sleep a lot, on average 2 to 3 hours a night. Well, now that I'm in my 40s, that's gone. And then when I started Traction on Demand in 2006, I was always thinking, even the word traction was all about time. It was, when asked, why did you call the business Traction? It was, well, because I want to build a business that helps people waste less time. There's so much inefficiency, so much complication in business. We make things unnecessary. We're wasting energy. We're spending people. So if they can get better traction, their work and their distance can be more tightly correlated. Well, we came up with this concept as time evolved was, hey, what about more time to play? Could that be our purpose? Because if we can get our work done more efficiently, can we play? Well, the truth was, technology does allow people to get more work done in a shorter period of time, which allows us to do more work. So there's a fallacy in there. So we kind of tucked more time to play away. It's later evolved to, wait a second, and this is where a really interesting permission is being created, which is, well, why is work not play? How can we make work play? Why do these things have to be different? Work, life, balance. So we start talking about harmony. And the truth is, this is a whole life, one life. For those of you who know me, know I have a strong opposition to the statement, it's just business. Because I actually don't believe that. I think it's one life. I think it's one way we operate, and there should be one self and one set of values. So what really matters? Well, it's time. Time matters the most. And if you think about the things that resonate, the hot words today around impact, quality, value, meaning, intention, and this year's super hot word, purpose. All these things have one factor. Density comes from time. And 4 years ago, we introduced this concept of pulse at TractionForce. And this was an experiment we were about to run on our people. And the experiment was, because we were an organization that essentially we spend time, and we need to keep track of time, because that's how we know how much effort it's taken to do work for our customers. The question was, can we make this valuable for our people? Is there a series of questions that we could ask that would actually allow us to bring more value to the people who are actually empowering our organization to even exist? And so we built a simple application that's grown tremendously in its complexity called Pulse. And in Pulse, this is just in the last year, we logged these 748,000 hours against this platform. And so it's grown not just to be our consulting team, it's everybody at Traction. The only team that still needs to get the screwdriver in the ribs hard enough is our sales organization, so they know the pressure's coming. But in fact, they're starting to ask for this too, because they want to understand what they love. And what we did was we just said, hey, look, as you're entering your time, how about you tell us 2 things? How was it? It was amazing, pretty good, mildly painful, or brutal? And the other thing we'd love to hear is, what zone of thought were you in when you did this work? Were you syndicating, meaning sharing your knowledge and expertise? Were you learning and sharpening your saw? Were you executing, scratching your itch? Or conducting the necessary evil of admin? The fun thing is 175,000 hours logged is amazing. And as we dug into those amazing hours, what was really interesting is we started learning a little bit about our business. We're executing too much. Our company's getting known for what we're good at, and people are asking for more of that. And it's diminishing the quality of the time that we're doing. Our team has a greater appetite to learn. Our team has a greater appetite to syndicate. So we can get down to the detail of even the individuals. You might think, whoa, this seems so broad, so big brother. The truth is, we gave this data to our team first. And once they built some understanding of their own pulse, that's when we started sharing this information to the leadership too. We've collected 1.5 million hours. And so I want to talk a little bit about what we've learned. Perhaps there's some insight that we can share with you. So number one thing was we learned with this collection of time is if we can understand what people love, we can give them more of that. And therein lies career pathing. We learned that it's not just about what you love, because it's very rare that one person's working alone, you're working with someone else. How can we find complementarity? If we know what other people love, we can actually use that to drive team composition. In an organization that's growing 40 to 50% every year, you can imagine teams are continuously changing within our business. And so this has been a tremendous means for us to find the right matches between leaders, team members, and everyone else. We also learned, and this was an interesting one, we thought at first, if you're logging a lot of brutal time, that probably means you're going to quit, or you're already out the door. What we learned, though, was brutal time was actually people signaling that you're wasting my time. They didn't feel like they were given the opportunity to do what they felt to be quality work. We were spending time unnecessarily. They had too much on their plate, so they're not able to deliver quality, or they're doing things that they just didn't know how to do, and we weren't giving them the appropriate support. This was a leading indicator of quality. Can you imagine if a manufacturing company could understand brutal time applied to the welding of their aluminum boats? Would that cut down on warranties? We also saw the law of diminishing returns. If you keep giving people what they love, they'll love it less. And so we started understanding this whole notion of bringing diversity of work. And we also saw unusual shifts. And we started seeing this correlation between pulse and mental wellness. So, and this was both in the positive way, where we could invite the question like, hey, what's going on? And maybe we saw some earlier indicators of something that was just an anomaly that was worthy exploring. So this was all about leading to conversations. The other thing is, as much as everyone here, and I would love to think that I can remember the things that I loved the most over the course of the last year, it was about a 30-day window on average. Our demeanor and our feeling around work really, and life at large, really was judged in a pocket of around 30 days. And if you could look at this aggregate over a year, just think, like if I was to ask anyone here, hey, tell me about the best 100 hours you spent in the last year. That's a pretty tough question. But we were able to do that. We also saw that people want to share. And so this brings in this whole question of why is it that we have kind of this external anonymous voice now, right? The social voice, this neutral voice, this anonymous voice. Well, it's possibly because in organizations we haven't created the right channels for people to openly speak. And with this continuous feedback, what we saw is people genuinely want to share. People change as they should, which meant it wasn't necessarily about the job that they loved could become the job that they didn't. And also we saw more systematically, pulse has become a major part of our strategy. As a leader, there's many choices where you have 6 of one or half dozen the other. Should we launch a product, or should we go down the services path? Should we go after this vertical or that vertical? Should we expand in geography, or should we expand depth in specific focus and market? These are, in a lot of cases, as much as we want to say these are scientific, if I could tell you what your team loved to do, and you saw them as 6 of one, half dozen the other, wouldn't that be a great input? It's also changed how we work with customers. So over the course of the last year, as we started measuring our pulse, our customers started asking if they could actually measure theirs. And over 40% of our customers are now actually giving us a sense of their sentiment on the projects. So we can actually start mapping those together. We actually display it through a platform now. So a customer can actually see our pulse versus their pulse to drive conversations and open a freedom to talk. It's also changing our prioritization initiatives and even roles. As a result of this, we've actually started splitting jobs. We once had what we call an SSG, which is a project manager, a BA, and more of a solution kind of consultant, all as one role. What we saw was people started splitting those times in their pulse and logging different levels of sentiment based on them. What we realized was there's actually 3 jobs packed into one, and maybe it's time to split them off. We did. It's changing the philosophy of leadership. And the only thing I'll kind of touch on in this area is it's actually created a new invitation for our conversation. And so what's really exciting to me is it's our team actually bringing their pulse to the table, not necessarily our leaders having to focus on pulse. We haven't actually challenged this whole notion of the one-on-ones because of the regular cadence, but the question is whether or not that even makes sense anymore, because we actually have a whole indicator of whether or not a conversation would be necessary. So why are we doing this? This huge endeavor around pulse, outside of it seeming like a very good opportunity for long-term business. It's actually proven that what's good for our people has been good for our business. So what should you do, right? Not everybody has all this wonderful technology. You may think, oh, I don't have the ability to log time and systems and calendars or whatever else. But the truth is, many of you are probably already doing this in one way or another, through journaling, through mindfulness, through meditation. In fact, yesterday when I was talking to Ben from Patagonia about this topic, he actually mentioned the author of Good to Great, Jim Collins. And Jim's been recording his time for the last 30 years and actually putting what he enjoyed and gone back to try to find ways to find more good and less bad. So the truth is, these constructs have existed for a long time, but technology is now getting available to us to do it more efficiently. But it's not about a tool, it's about a philosophy. It's about the thing that everybody here knows they should do, but probably doesn't have the time to do. But because you're not taking the time to do it, the question is, are you wasting your time? Are you spending your time correctly? So we're talking about this whole concept of spending. Spending time. But is spend really the right word? Do people spend? When I need outdoor gear, I seek gear from a company that makes a good quality product, sells it at a fair price, and has values that align to that of my own. When I ride share, the exact same factor. When I select a telecommunication company, I see these as commodities from a baseline. So I'm looking for a company that aligns to my values, where I feel the dollars are actually going to make a difference. So I ask you this, is it worth spend? Or should we shift our mindset? Should we shift our entire program and start thinking about time as something that we invest? And so, where I'll leave you is this whole question. I certainly hope today is time well invested. I certainly hope you feel that this has left you with hopefully some more questions than you came into this room before. And I'm really excited about what's about to kind of unfold for you, because even in the briefings and the conversations that we've had, I think every speaker that's going to be hitting this stage or any stage here is going to be talking about things that they've never talked openly about before. So with that, thank you very much.